Hello, TheladyKeziah here. Why must we talk about dysfunctionality? Let's have another difficult and yet necessary conversation. We live in a world that often values appearances over reality. We are taught to present a polished version of ourselves, to smile even when we are hurting, and to stay silent about struggles that don't fit the ideal image of a normal life. But beneath this illusion of normality, dysfunction thrives in our families, workplaces, communities, even within ourselves. Yeah. It is time we start talking about it because silence comes at a cost. More importantly, breaking the cycle is possible. Why do we keep quiet, accept dysfunctionality, and even try to normalize it? It is only by acknowledging dysfunction can we build healthier relationships, both personal and societal. So let's look at these things I'm going to share. Adopt and adapt and share your experiences too for other people to equally learn. Number one, the illusion of normality. Many of us grew up believing, we grew up or you are growing up believing that whatever happens in your homes, our communities, our relationships, they are just the way things are. You know, some even don't accept that a relationship is supposed to be functional. It might look too good to be true to them. They are always on alert, waiting and hoping that the other shoe will drop, something bad will happen, because they are not used to healthy and functional relationships. So when people treat them well, they just want to avoid the person, ghost the person, or just anticipate that something bad will happen. So that's the way they have been socialized to accept the illusion of dysfunctionality and normalize it instead. We normalize dysfunction because it's familiar. You grew up seeing this all around you, and you are not normal. It has become normal. You are comfortable with that, such that when a functional, a healthy relationship comes your way, you are running away from it. It looks too good to be true. He's fake. She's fake. You are just hoping, anticipating for something to go wrong so you be able to, your self prophecy would be able to come alive. No. We must dismiss emotional neglect as tough love, excuse toxic workplaces as part of the job. As for this place, that is the way it is. As for this superior, he is rude. She's the standoffish type. So please accept these things. After all, this is not your home. You close and go back home. No, it is not normal. It is not normal. When we tolerate unhealthy relationships because nobody is perfect in so to say. Everybody has their own flaws. So it is normal. These things do happen in relationships. Can't we do better? Can't we do better? Normally, as we perceive it, it's often an illusion. Just because something is common, does not mean it is healthy. Just because that's the way you grew up, just because that's the way you've been treating people along, doesn't mean you can't grow at a point and say, hey, no, this is not how I want my life to be. Either I bring people in or I keep them, apart. But you can't sit on the fence and assume that things are supposed to be the same. You can't just continue being at environments that people drain you instead of feeling you. Workplaces that there's so much abuse in all its forms, and yet it's normal. After all, it's just money you went there to make. No, your mental health is at stake. Your mental health is at stake. A workplace that damages your self-esteem is not normal. A family where emotions are suppressed is not normal. It doesn't matter how assertive you try to be, as long as there is something for you to talk about and other people won't take it lightly, they term you either rude, arrogant, or disrespectful. And because of that, everybody is keeping on holding on to their feelings and their emotions. No, the sooner we recognize these, the sooner we can begin to change them. If it's not normal to you, don't accept it. Many consider dysfunctionality as a normal part of relationships. Can you give examples of common dysfunctional patterns in relationship? In the comment section, let me hear from you. Let's learn together. Do you know the dangers of normalizing unhealthy behaviors? Whether you are up there and you are treating people who are lower or vice versa. Do you know the dangers of normalizing unhealthy behaviors? How dysfunctionality impacts personal growth and development, you know. Number 2, the cost of silence. I always say, any relationship that falls apart, both people had roles they were supposed to have played. So when you hear somebody bad mouthing, turning their partner into an evil, and they parading as saints, and it's because of their partner that the relationship went just wink and pass. Every relationship, even if it was your partner's fault 100%, you equally had a role to play. The fact that you kept quiet and watched this functionality thrive under your watch means you also had a role to play in it. For me, silence is not golden when you have something to say with regards to your mental health. Silence is what allows dysfunction to persist. When we do not speak up, we create environments where abuse, neglect, unhealthy patterns continue unchecked. Everybody that treats you bad knows it. It is just because you don't have any boundaries. So as long as they can treat you anyhow and get away with it, so be it. They'll continually take you for granted. And when we don't speak up, when we don't address these things, when we don't have the courage to have these difficult and yet necessary conversations, it means we are harboring. We, in return, are fueling these dysfunctional patterns. For individuals, this silence can lead to mental health struggles, low self-worth, and repeated cycles of unhealthy relationships. For families, it means passing down unspoken trauma from one generation to the other. Have you been with a friend, associate, somebody that you know was suffering from mental health issues and yet was afraid to even speak up? Because in their home, you don't talk about these things. Yeah, that's what happens. So you pass these things on to your children because they see you living that way, that it becomes normal for everybody to take you for granted and it's normal to you. No. You pass down this unspoken trauma from one generation to the other. In workplaces and communities, even our religious settings, where you are not supposed to be yourself, but rather to conform. It means allowing toxicity to thrive, discouraging growth, and suppressing positive change. You can never become your truest and authentic self in such environments. Silence also isolates. When we don't talk about dysfunction, People who suffer in unhealthy environments feel alone, ashamed, and powerless to change their circumstances. But you see, dysfunction is not a personal failure. It is a social issue. Social issues require collective action. But as long as we can't go there to make these collective and national, why don't you begin in your own home, in your own life, that you begin setting boundaries? We are the society. When our dynamics change, our society equally changes. You know the emotional toil of accepting dysfunctionality? You have no idea. A lot of people are walking dead. They're already dead. They are just living, putting up appearances, but their souls are giving up on them because they've been able to normalize all these functionalities and it's become part of them, such that they cannot even live their truest and authentic self. Is that what you want? No. So you have no idea how dysfunctionality impacts personal growth and development. The ripple effect of dysfunctionality on future relationships we haven't considered yet. You are in a dysfunctional relationship and yet you are afraid to have these difficult yet necessary conversations. You are dying by the day. Is it normal? Number 3, breaking the cycle. Dysfunction does not have to define us. We can break the cycle. It starts with awareness. We must unlearn the patterns we were taught and challenge the unhealthy behaviors we once accepted as normal. It also requires courage, just like I said early on. It is not easy to question traditions, challenge authority, or set boundaries with people you truly love. People who are taking you for granted under the pretext of this is what happens in any love relationship. They know better and therefore they can do better. It is because you've normalized it. Should they meet another person who has boundaries, they won't treat that person like they are treating you. Change is never easy, but it is necessary. Breaking the cycle means recognizing red flags, knowing what are deal breakers for you, setting boundaries, seeking help, and supporting others in their journey towards healthier living too. Recognizing your role in dysfunctional patterns, just like I said, you have also played a huge role. That is why this dysfunctionality has continued till now. Would you set boundaries now? Setting boundaries and asserting your needs. It is beautiful when people can, on their own accord, feel, see, sense your needs and give. But if they can't do, and you still want that relationship, what do? You assertively express it and what their willingness, readiness, and availability to provide this. If not, everybody is not supposed to be with just anybody. So setting boundaries and asserting your needs. Why would you be in a relationship and yet your emotional needs, things that don't take money to accomplish, you can't even get, and yet you're afraid to address these dysfunctionalities? Seeking professional help to break the cycle might be what you need also. Number 4, building healthy foundations. Once we acknowledge dysfunction, we can begin to build something better. And that is the point I am now. If something can be considered as abnormal, it is not something that will cause you to thrive. It is not something that would enable you to live your truest and authentic self, and you're afraid to discuss it. How can you have the best relationships? Would you just give and pour out without getting anything back in return? No. Very soon, you will run on an empty gas. and that won't be good for your mental health. So once we acknowledge dysfunction, we can begin to build something better. And so you are able to have these difficult and yet necessary conversations you would always be taken for granted. People will just use you and dump you like it never mattered. You only give and give and give without getting anything back in return. And that is the era in which we are. That everybody is thinking about what is in for me, without thinking of what they can give in return. So when you see people who only consider what they can get without sitting down to calculate and recalculate what they can also give to make the relationship thrive, they are dangerous humans. Healthy relationships, whether in families, friendships, workplaces, or communities, are built on communication, respect, and emotional safety. We must normalize expressing emotions without fear or judgment, apologizing and taking accountability instead of justifying harm. You've caused pain to another. Somebody's hurt because of you, and you think the person has no rights to be hurt, to feel that way. If you were to be in that person's shoe and you were to give without getting anything back in return, how would you feel it? Until you put yourself in other people's shoes, you will never know what it means to pour into other people's lives too. Setting boundaries without fear or feeling guilty. If you give and give and give without getting anything back in return, common sense tells you that you have to recalculate. Because when you give, when you pour, when you sow into a soil that will not be able to germinate, it doesn't matter the good seed you put in there, it would be wasted. So setting boundaries without feeling guilty would be a key. Creating safe spaces for open and honest conversations are equally key too. Healing is not just about breaking what is unhealthy. It is about replacing it with something better. Many a time people say I'm healing, I am healing. I don't want you to treat me this way. How then do you want to be treated? These are things you have to have conversations around them. It's just like telling a child, don't put the cup on the table without teaching that child where he or she is supposed to place that cup instead. You leave them hanging. So healing is not just about breaking what is unhealthy. After that is broken, you replace it with something that is better, something that is functional and healthy, which means open and honest conversation is something you have to go for. Respect for individual boundaries and needs. Many a time when you hear boundaries, you are thinking about the other person. I have come to learn that boundaries begin with me. Things I won't do to myself because I deserve better. And if I won't do this to myself, why do I sit down and allow another human being to do that? To throw that at me and I normalize it? No. So respect for individual boundaries and needs. Active listening and understanding. Number 5, finding your voice. One of the most powerful tools we have in this process is our voice. When we talk about dysfunction, we take away its power. When we share our stories, we give others the courage to do the same. Speaking up does not always mean standing on a stage. No, it can be as simple as saying, that is not okay. No, I can't accept this. Or asking, how can we do this better? It means being willing to challenge unhealthy patterns, advocate for positive change, and support those who are equally struggling. Number 4, and to sum up everything I've shared, advocating for healthier societal relationships. This is bigger than just a personal healing. It is about transforming society. And just like I said early on, you and I are the society. When you change and I change, as our society changes, our relationships changes. If we want healthier families, beautiful workplaces where people can be themselves, and communities, we must actively promote respect, emotional intelligence, and empathy in all aspects of our lives. In families, encourage open communication and emotional validation. Not when you hurt someone's feelings, thinking that you are the only human, forgetting that that person has also been hurt by your decisions or your inability to even take a decision. What do? You address them. So when you hurt someone's feelings, then you turn around to question, why should the person be hurt? If the tables turn and you are treated the same, will you accept that? In workplaces, advocate for environments that prioritizes well-being over toxic productivity. When some people, all they want is what you bring in, your input, without considering how they are able to feed you, to equip you in order to be in that capacity to be able to be productive. In friendships and relationships, choose connections that uplift and empower, not the ones that will drain you and waste you. In society, challenge norms that glorify dysfunction, whether in media, politics, or cultural traditions. Challenge the status quo. Don't just accept anything thrown at you as normal anymore. When we advocate for healthier relationships, we don't just improve our own lives, we create a better world for future generations. In rounding up, ladies and gentlemen, we must talk about dysfunctionality because silence allows it to grow. We must break the illusion of normality, acknowledge the cost of silence, and take action to break unhealthy cycles. We must build strong, healthy foundations and use our voices to advocate for better relationships in society. Because when we address dysfunction, we don't just heal ourselves, we heal our communities also. Until I come your way, in my next video, watch another video from my channel. Let me hear from you in the comments how you are able to equally eschew dysfunctionality and embrace functional, thriving, and wholesome relationships. Much love and blessings. TheladyKeziah is my name.